Hi everyone, welcome to the AI Revenue Engine Masterclass Series. Today's session, build AI capabilities that scale with your business from readiness to growth, builds on our previous discussions about turning AI investments into business results and designing workflows that support adoption and execution. Today, we'll move beyond technology and workflows to focus on something even more important: the organizational capabilities that determine whether AI becomes a lasting competitive advantage or simply another successful pilot that never scales. I'm Bhuva Shakti, an AI adoption and automation advisor. I help companies use AI to grow revenue with less friction by improving workflows, operations, governance, and decision making. Throughout my career across Wall Street, technology companies, startups, nonprofit organizations, and advisory roles, I have led transformation initiatives where organizations invested heavily in new technologies. One pattern has remained remarkably consistent. Technology rarely determines long term success. Organizations that build the right leadership, operating, and execution capabilities consistently outperform those that focus only on implementation. Many executives ask whether their organization is ready for AI. I believe the better question is whether the organization is ready to change. AI requires leaders who make decisions differently and managers who reinforce new behaviors, employees who continuously learn, and operating models that evolve as the business grows. Without those capabilities, organizations often achieve successful demonstrations while struggling to sustain business value across multiple teams and functions. One lesson I've learned over nearly 3 decades is that organizations do not become AI leaders because they purchase better technology. They become AI leaders because they build stronger organizations. That means investing in leadership, operational discipline, governance, workforce capability, and continuous improvement. These capabilities create an environment where AI can consistently support revenue growth, operational excellence, and business agility instead of becoming another isolated initiative. During today's session, we'll examine why many AI pilots never scale, what organization readily actually looks like, and how leaders systematically build the capabilities needed for long term success. I'll also introduce practical examples from organizations that successfully moved beyond experimentation by strengthening leadership, teams, governance, and operating models before expanding AI across the enterprise. My goal is to give you a practical executive roadmap that you can begin applying within your own organization. A regional banking organization successfully completed a 6-month AI pilot that automated internal credit review activities, reducing processing time by 32%. Leadership expected similar improvements across commercial lending, operations, and customer service, but expansion stalled because each department followed different processes, decision structures, and reporting standards. Rather than purchasing additional AI tools, the executive team spent 4 months strengthening leadership accountability, standardizing operating practices, and improving workforce readiness. Within the following year, AI capabilities expanded across 6 business functions, employee adoption exceeded 88%, and operational efficiency improved by 26%. And leadership reported significantly greater confidence in scaling future AI initiatives. Today's 5 themes: AI capability matters, readiness drives growth, leadership creates scale, organizations enable AI, and growth requires alignment. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions I encounter is the belief that a successful AI pilot automatically means an organization is ready to scale. A pilot demonstrates that a technology can solve a specific problem under controlled conditions. Scaling requires something entirely different. It requires an organization capable of supporting consistent execution across multiple teams, business functions, and operating environments. The question is no longer does the AI work? It becomes, can the organization consistently make the AI work? Pilot projects often benefit from ideal conditions. They typically involve a motivated team, dedicated funding, executive visibility, experienced subject matter experts, and limited operational complexity. As organizations attempt to expand those same solutions across departments, they encounter very different realities. Different business units have different priorities, workflows, performance metrics, leadership styles, and customer expectations. The complexity grows exponentially, even though the technology itself remains unchanged. Throughout my career leading transformation programs, I have seen organizations celebrate successful pilots only to become frustrated when enterprise deployment fails to deliver similar results. Leaders often assume the technology needs improvement when the real issue lies elsewhere. More often than not, the organization has not developed the capabilities required to support broader adoption. AI simply exposes weaknesses that already existed within the leadership, operations, governance, and workforce alignment. Another challenge is that organizations frequently underestimate what changes after a pilot. A pilot may involve 20 users, enterprise deployment may involve thousands, decision making becomes more distributed, governance becomes more complex, compliance requirements increase, and managers must reinforce new ways of working across diverse teams. These organizational demands cannot be solved by technology alone. They require deliberate capability building and executive leadership. One observation I consistently share with executive teams is this: pilots validate technology, but scale validates organizations. Before approving enterprise wide expansion, leaders should assess whether the organization has the leadership and operational discipline, governance, workforce capabilities, and change management practices needed to sustain long term success. Organizations that make this shift dramatically improve the return on their AI investments while reducing unnecessary disruption during implementation. A global manufacturing company completed a successful AI pilot that reduced production inspection time by 29% within one facility. Encouraged by the results, leadership expanded the solution to 5 additional plants. Within months, adoption varied significantly because each location followed different operating procedures, reporting structures, and management practices. Rather than replacing the technology, the organization standardized operating processes, established executive sponsors, and created common performance metrics. Within 9 months, adoption exceeded 90% across all facilities, inspection quality improved, and production efficiency increased by 23%. A good executive insight here is that a successful AI pilot proves the technology works. A successful enterprise rollout proves the organization is ready. Now, after organizations complete a successful AI pilot, the next question I often hear is, which business function should we expand into next? My response is usually a different question altogether. Is your organization actually ready? Many leaders evaluate AI readiness by looking at technology, data, or budgets. In my experience, organizational readiness is a far more reliable predictor of long term success. AI becomes sustainable only when the organization itself is prepared to operate differently. Organizational readiness begins with culture. Culture influences how people respond to change, make decisions, solve problems, and collaborate across teams. Employees need to understand why AI is being introduced, how it supports business objectives, and what success looks like for both the organization and their individual roles. When leaders fail to communicate this vision consistently, uncertainty grows, resistance increases, and adoption slows regardless of how capable the technology may be. Leadership readiness is equally important. Throughout my transformation experience, I have learned that employees rarely resist the technology itself. Instead, they look to leadership for direction, consistency, and confidence. Leaders who actively reinforce new behaviors, remove barriers, make timely decisions, and model continuous learning create an environment where employees feel comfortable embracing change. Organizations cannot expect the employees to adopt new ways of working if leaders continue operating as they always have. Accountability and governance provide the structure that supports sustainable growth. Employees need clarity around ownership, decision making authority, performance expectations, and responsible AI practices. Governance should not be viewed as additional bureaucracy. Instead, it creates confidence by ensuring decisions are transparent, risks are managed appropriately, and AI initiatives remain aligned with business priorities. Strong governance enables organizations to scale faster because everyone understands how decisions are made. Finally, operating models determine whether organizational readiness becomes a long term capability rather than a one time project. High performing organizations regularly review processes, leadership responsibilities, workforce capabilities, and governance practices as technology evolves. They recognize that readiness is not achieved at the beginning of transformation. It becomes an ongoing discipline that allows the business to continuously adopt, scale, and improve. Organizations that treat readiness as a strategic capability consistently outperform those that focus only on technology implementation. A national healthcare provider introduced AI assisted patient scheduling after a successful pilot within one hospital. While the technology accurately predicted staffing demand, expansion across additional hospitals produced inconsistent results because leadership expectations, governance processes, and operating procedures differed by location. Before expanding further, executives launched an organizational readiness program focused on leadership communication, standardized governance, employee training, and common operating practices. Within 6 months, AI adoption increased from 49% to 91%. Patient scheduling efficiency improved by 24%, and employee confidence in the new operating model increased significantly. A key takeaway here is technology readiness determines whether AI can be implemented. Organizational readiness determines whether AI can become a lasting business capability. Now, after helping organizations assess their readiness, the next question is always the same. What capabilities should we build first? Many executives immediately think about hiring AI engineers, purchasing new software, or improving infrastructure. Those investments certainly matter, but they rarely determine long term success on their own. In my experience, organizations that consistently outperform their peers focus first on strengthening five core organizational capabilities: leadership, operations, data, governance, and workforce. Together, these capabilities create the foundation that allows AI to move from isolated projects to enterprise wide business value. Leadership is the first capability because transformation always begins with direction. Leaders define priorities, allocate resources, remove barriers, and reinforce accountability across the organization. When executive teams send mixed messages about AI priorities or delegate transformation entirely to technology teams, progress quickly slows. Employees look to leadership for clarity and confidence, especially during periods of significant change. Strong leadership creates alignment long before technology creates results. Operations become the second capability because AI creates value only when it improves how work is performed every day. Organizations with well defined workflows, consistent operating procedures, and measurable performance indicators can integrate AI much more effectively than organizations with fragmented processes. One lesson I've learned throughout my career is that AI does not fix operational inconsistency, it often magnifies it. Improving operational capability before scaling AI significantly increases the likelihood of sustainable business outcomes. Data and governance work together to create trust. Reliable data improves the quality of decisions, while governance establishes clear ownership, accountability, ethical oversight, and consistent standards across the organization. Executives often ask whether they should prioritize data or governance first. My answer is that they are inseparable. High quality data without governance creates inconsistency. Governance without reliable data creates poor decisions. Organizations need both capabilities working together to scale AI responsibly. Finally, the workforce becomes the capability that connects everything together. Technology adoption ultimately depends on people. Employees need the skills, confidence, and support to embrace new ways of working. Organizations that continuously invest in workforce capability through learning, collaboration, communication, and change management create a culture where AI becomes part of everyday business operations rather than a one time transformation initiative. When these five capabilities mature together, organizations build an operating foundation that supports continuous innovation and long term growth. A commercial insurance company planned to expand AI across underwriting, claims, and customer service after completing several successful pilots. Before approving additional investments, leadership conducted an organizational capability assessment. The review identified inconsistent executive sponsorship, fragmented operational processes, poor data standards, limited governance, and uneven employee readiness. Rather than purchasing additional technology, the organization spent 6 months strengthening these five capabilities. The result was a 34% faster enterprise rollout, 27% higher employee adoption, and measurable improvements in customer response times and operational efficiency. A key takeaway here is technology may be the engine of AI, but organizational capabilities are the infrastructure that allows it to scale. Organizations that strengthen leadership, operations, data, governance, and workforce capabilities build a competitive advantage that extends far beyond any single AI initiative. Now, one of the biggest lessons I've learned throughout my career is that organizations rarely succeed with AI because they have exceptional technology. They succeed because they have exceptional leadership. Technology teams can deploy AI, but only business leaders can create the environment where AI becomes part of everyday decision making and execution. Before investing in enterprise wide AI, leaders should first ask whether they have the leadership capability to guide the organization through continuous transformation. The first leadership capability is decision making. AI gives leaders faster access to information, predictive insights, and alternative scenarios. However, better information does not automatically lead to better decisions. Leaders still need business judgment, strategic thinking, and the ability to balance innovation with risk. Throughout my transformation work, I have found that organizations often struggle not because they lack data, but because decision making slows when ownership is unclear or executives hesitate to act. Executive sponsorship is equally important. AI initiatives cannot remain technology projects owned exclusively by IT or innovation teams. They must become business initiatives championed by executive leadership. Strong executive sponsors communicate the business purpose, allocate resources, remove organizational barriers, and reinforce priorities across departments. Employees notice very quickly whether AI is viewed as a strategic priority or simply another technology experiment. Leadership also requires clear ownership and accountability. One question I frequently ask executives is, who owns the business outcome? If the answer is unclear, implementation usually becomes fragmented. Ownership should extend beyond system deployment to include adoption, operational performance, customer impact, workforce readiness, and measurable business results. Accountability creates momentum because leaders know exactly what they are responsible for delivering. Finally, leaders must become champions of change rather than managers of resistance. Every transformation creates uncertainty. Employees look to leadership for confidence, consistency, and direction. Leaders who communicate openly, celebrate progress, address concerns early, and demonstrate new behaviors themselves create organizations that adapt more quickly. In my experience, the quality of leadership often determines the speed of adoption far more than the sophistication of the technology. A global professional services firm introduced AI assisted proposal development across multiple business units. Although the technology reduced document preparation time by nearly 40%, adoption remained below 45% because business leaders viewed the initiative as an IT project rather than a strategic priority. The executive team appointed senior sponsors for each business unit, established quarterly business reviews, clarified ownership, and linked adoption metrics to leadership performance goals. Within 8 months, adoption increased to 89%, proposal turnaround time improved by 31%, and client response rates increased as teams consistently delivered higher quality proposals. A key takeaway here is organizational do not follow AI strategies. They follow leaders. Technology creates new possibilities, but leadership determines whether those possibilities become sustainable business capabilities. Now, while leadership establishes direction, teams determine whether transformation succeeds at the operational level. Every AI initiative eventually reaches a point where employees decide whether the new way of working becomes part of their daily routine or remains an optional tool. Throughout my career, I have found that organizations with the highest AI adoption rates are not necessarily those with the most advanced technology. They are the ones that deliberately invest in building capable, confident, and collaborative teams before expecting large scale change. The first capability teams need is a commitment to continuous learning. AI is evolving rapidly, and today's best practices will continue to change. Organizations should move away from viewing training as a one time event and instead create an environment where employees continuously develop new knowledge, experiment with new approaches, and share practical lessons with one another. Learning becomes part of the organization's operating model rather than a project milestone. Collaboration becomes the second capability because AI rarely improves just one department. Customer journeys, operational processes, and business decisions often cross multiple business functions. Sales depends on marketing. Operations depend on finance. Customer service depends on product teams. When departments continue operating independently, AI often optimizes one part of the business while creating new bottlenecks elsewhere. Cross functional collaboration allows organizations to improve entire business processes rather than isolated activities. And trust is equally important. One of the most common concerns employees express is uncertainty about how AI will affect their work. Leaders sometimes respond by focusing on the technology itself, but employees are usually asking different questions. Will my role change? Will I receive the right support? How will success be measured? Organizations that communicate transparently involve employees early and demonstrate how AI enhances rather than replaces human expertise consistently experience stronger engagement and faster adoption. Finally, high performing teams are empowered to improve the business continuously. Rather than waiting for executive direction, they identify workflow improvements, share customer insights, recommend process enhancements, and test new ideas responsibly. This mindset transforms AI from a technology initiative into a capability that evolves alongside the business. In my experience, organizations that encourage employee ownership and innovation adapt far more quickly to changing customer expectations and market conditions than organizations that rely solely on top down decision making. A national retail organization introduced AI-powered inventory forecasting across merchandising, supply chain, and store operations. Initial adoption varied significantly because departments worked independently and employees lacked confidence in the new planning process. Leadership launched cross functional workshops, peer mentoring, and monthly learning sessions that encouraged teams to share successes and challenges. Within 7 months, AI adoption increased from 54% to 92%. Inventory shortages decreased by 21%, and employees reported stronger collaboration and greater confidence in day to day decision making. A key takeaway here is technology scales when people scale first. Organizations that build skilled, collaborative, and confident teams create an environment where AI becomes part of everyday business performance rather than another standalone initiative. Now, throughout my career leading transformation programs, I've learned that organizations do not scale because they hire more people or implement more technology. They scale because they build operating models that allow the business to execute consistently, regardless of size or complexity. AI may accelerate individual tasks, but an operating model determines how decisions are made, how workflows across departments, how accountability is maintained, and how value is delivered to customers. Without an operating model designed for scale, AI often amplifies inconsistency rather than improving performance. Governance is the first building block of a scalable operating model. Many executives associate governance with additional controls or bureaucracy, but effective governance should actually simplify execution. It clearly defines decision rights, ownership, and escalation paths, performance expectations, and responsible AI practices. When governance is well designed, teams spend less time debating who should make decisions and more time executing against shared business priorities. Strong governance creates speed because responsibilities are already understood. The second capability is measuring the outcomes that actually matter. One mistake I frequently see in many organizations is celebrating technology metrics instead of business metrics. They measure model accuracy, system uptime, or the number of users logging into an application, yet overlook whether the revenue has increased, operating costs have decreased, customer satisfaction has improved, or decisions are being made faster. Executives should consistently ask whether AI is improving business performance, not simply whether the technology is functioning as expected. Standardization and adaptability must work together within every operating model. Standardization creates consistency across teams, locations, and business units, making it easier to scale successful practices. At the same time, organizations must remain flexible enough to respond to changing customer expectations, market conditions, competitive pressures, and regulatory requirements. High performing organizations establish common operating principles while allowing individual teams enough flexibility to solve local business challenges effectively. Finally, organizations should view continuous improvement as an operating capability rather than a project phase. AI technologies, customer expectations, and business priorities will continue evolving. Leaders should establish regular operating reviews that evaluate workflow performance, governance effectiveness, employee feedback, customer outcomes, and business metrics. Organizations that continuously refine their operating models remain competitive because they improve faster than the environment changes. In my experience, sustainable AI success comes from building organizations that learn continuously rather than implementing technology once. A national logistics company successfully implemented AI assisted route optimization across one region, reducing transportation costs by 19%. When the solution expanded nationally, results varied because regional offices followed different operating procedures, performance measures, and governance practices. Leadership responded by introducing a standardized operating model with common KPIs, governance reviews, and quarterly operational improvement cycles. Within 10 months, AI adoption exceeded 93%. Transportation costs declined by 24%. On-time deliveries improved by 17%. And regional leaders reported significantly greater confidence in scaling future AI initiatives. One key takeaway here is technology may accelerate business performance, but operating models determine whether that performance can be repeated, measured, and sustained. Organizations that scale successfully don't just implement AI, they build operating models that continuously improve alongside it. Throughout this masterclass series, we've explored different pieces of successful AI transformation. In our first session, we discussed how organizations can turn AI investments into measurable business results. In our second session, we examined why workflow design determines whether AI becomes part of everyday execution. Today, we have focused on the organizational capabilities required to sustain that progress. These are not independent ideas. Together, they form the AI revenue engine framework, which I developed to help leaders connect technology investments with the long-term business performance. The framework begins with revenue growth because every AI investment should support a measurable business objective. Before evaluating vendors or technologies, leaders should ask how AI will improve customer acquisition, customer retention, product innovation, revenue generation, or market expansion. Organizations that begin with business outcomes make better investment decisions because technology becomes a means to achieve growth rather than an objective in itself. Revenue growth ensures AI remains connected to business strategy. The second pillar is smart operations. Revenue cannot grow sustainably without operational excellence. Throughout my career, I have consistently found that organizations create the greatest value when they remove operational friction before introducing additional automation. Smart operations focuses on workflow design, operational efficiency, decision making, accountability, execution, and continuous improvement. When organizations improve how work gets done, AI becomes an accelerator rather than a temporary productivity tool. The third pillar is business agility, supported by organizational readiness. Markets evolve, customer expectations change, regulations shift, and technology continues advancing. Organizations that build adaptable leadership, capable teams, scalable operating models, and effective governance are better positioned to respond to change without disrupting business performance. Organizational readiness enables business agility by ensuring the business has the capabilities required to continuously adopt, scale, and improve AI as new opportunities emerge. When these four pillars work together, organizations develop scalable AI capability. This is the ultimate objective of the AIRE framework. Rather than managing individual AI projects, leaders build an organization capable of repeatedly identifying opportunities, adopting new technologies, improving operations, and delivering measurable business outcomes. In my experience, this shift from managing technology to building operational capability is what separates organizations that experiment with AI from those that consistently outperform competitors over the long term. A global business services organization had completed more than 20 independent AI initiatives across sales, operations, finance, and customer service. While several projects delivered positive results individually, leadership struggled to prioritize investments and scale successful practices across the enterprise. Using the AIRE framework, executives aligned every initiative around revenue growth, smart operations, business agility, and organizational readiness before approving future investments. Within 12 months, duplicate projects were reduced by 41%, enterprise-wide AI adoption increased by 36%, operational efficiency improved by 22%, and leadership established a repeatable governance model for future initiatives. A key insight here is the AI revenue engine framework is not a technology roadmap. It's an organizational growth framework. Organizations achieve lasting AI success when they align revenue growth, smart operations, business agility, and organizational readiness to build scalable AI capability. As we close today's session, I'd like to leave you with one important thought. Throughout this masterclass, we have not focused on selecting AI tools, comparing vendors, or predicting the next breakthrough technology. Instead, we have focused on something far more enduring: building organizations that are capable of continuously creating business value from AI. Technology will continue to evolve, but organizations that develop strong leadership, operational excellence, governance, and workforce capability will remain competitive regardless of which technology comes next. Looking back across the three AIRE masterclasses, we have followed a deliberate progression. We began by asking how organizations can turn AI investments into measurable business results. We then explored why workflow design determines whether AI adoption translates into execution. Today, we have taken the final step by discussing how organizational capability enables AI to scale across the enterprise. These are not separate conversations, they represent the natural maturity journey every organization must navigate to realize sustainable business value from AI. My advice to executive teams is simple: resist the temptation to measure success by the number of AI tools you implement. Instead, measure success by the capabilities your organization develops along the way. Are leaders making better decisions? Are teams collaborating more effectively? Are workflows improving? Is governance becoming stronger? Are customers experiencing better outcomes? These are the indicators that AI is becoming embedded within the business rather than remaining a standalone technology initiative. The AI revenue engine framework was developed from nearly 3 decades of leading business transformation, digital modernization, operational improvement, and organizational change across multiple industries. While technologies continue to evolve, the principles that drive successful transformation have remained remarkably consistent. Organizations that align revenue growth, smart operations, business agility, and organizational readiness consistently achieve stronger business performance because they invest in capabilities that continue delivering value long after implementation is complete. Thank you for investing your time in today's session and throughout this masterclass series. Whether you are leading a startup, a growing business, or a global enterprise, I encourage you to begin with one simple question: what organizational capability should we strengthen before making our next AI investment? That single question can change the quality of every technology decision that follows. I hope today's discussion provides practical ideas that help you lead AI transformation with greater confidence, stronger execution, and measurable business impact. A mid-sized financial institution planned to invest an additional $1.8 million in enterprise AI initiatives after completing several successful pilots. Before approving the investment, the executive team conducted an organizational capability review using the AIRE framework. The assessment identified leadership alignment, governance, workforce readiness, and operating model improvements that could be addressed before expanding AI. After implementing these organizational changes over 6 months, the institution successfully scaled AI across 8 business units, increased employee adoption to 94%, and reduced operational costs by 21%, shortened customer response times by 28%, and achieved projected business outcomes without increasing the original investment budget. So, the final takeaways for today are: AI is a business transformation strategy, not a technology strategy. Organizational capability determines whether AI can scale successfully. Leadership, teams, operations, governance, and culture must evolve together. The AI Revenue Engine framework connects AI investments to sustainable business growth. And finally, organizations that build capabilities today will create competitive advantage tomorrow. Thank you for joining the AI Revenue Engine Masterclass series. I look forward to seeing you in our next session.